Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Jazakumullah everyone for joining. I know people are going to start joining slowly as well. Alhamdulillah, we are on day 4 of our Tabligh Ashra, 10 days of Tabligh. In the past 2 days, we've been having lessons on different aspects of Tabligh. We firstly spoke about what is Tabligh and went into the crux of what is Tabligh through the Holy Quran, through Hadith, and through sayings of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. And then yesterday we talked about why we should do Tabligh and why it's important for every single person to take part in preaching the word of the true Islam of Ahmadiyyat. And that was followed by very, very interesting questions, and it was very interactive, and I personally really enjoyed that. So inshallah, today we're very honored and blessed to have an esteemed guest from other side of the pool, all the way in Iceland, Rabbi Mansoor Malik Sahib. Just a brief introduction before we bring him onto the screens. Mansoor Malik Sahib moved to the UK from Germany in 2002. He studied in Jamia and completed Jamia, alhamdulillah, in 2012. Whereafter he was posted to Iceland. On a personal note as well, Mansoor Malik Sahib has always been a very close friend of mine. He, right from the very first day that I entered Jamia, he was almost like a bigger brother to me, a mentor. And I even remember very, very vividly on my first night, me and Mansoor Sahib went for a walk around the old Jamia building, and he was giving me tips right from the first day. Aside from that, we have always been playing basketball with each other, both on the same team and mostly against each other, which has always increased our brotherhood. So, Mansoor Sahib, it's an honor and pleasure for me personally and for our Jamaat to have you talk to us today about some activities you've been getting up to in Iceland.
Can you hear me? Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
How's the sound? It's okay?
Yeah, it's a little bit muffled, but it's okay. We can hear you.
What about now?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Yes, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah for having me. Honored, to say the least. It's my first invitation, and let's see if we can do justice to it.
So just for a quick background of why we're doing this, we are in Tabligh Ashra, and we just thought of an idea of why don't we, expand our horizons and go outside of the UK borders. We are going through this Brexit drama at the moment, so before we go through that, let's catch the moment and let's see how Tabligh is being done around Europe, especially. And so that's why we thought of you, and mashallah, the work is incredible. But just as we are on this journey, this almost virtual holiday, you can say, could you just tell us a little bit about Iceland, about what comes to your mind when you think about Iceland, some attraction sites for you that you've experienced?
Well, I think the most common thing that comes to mind is probably the Northern Lights. Well, actually, the first thing that people would think about Iceland is it full of ice? Let me break it to you. It's the disappointment. It's not full of ice. It's actually, I would say, pretty much like UK. It's just a little bit colder, windier. We have less sunny days. Our temperature doesn't get as hot as UK in summer, for instance. I would say we would consider like 20, 22 degrees to be a really, really, really good summer's day. So the first thing about Iceland is probably this. I didn't know much about Iceland myself. So when I found out, or when our class was finding out where we're being posted, I don't know if it was similar for you guys, how you guys found out. But anyways, we went to Majid Sab's office and he told us individually where we were going before it was official. And there was just two questions that he asked: your father's name and your name. And then he gave us the answer, Iceland. And at that time, I didn't even know where Iceland was. I had no idea about I had nothing. I knew nothing about Iceland at that time. And then I went home and I Googled some stuff about Iceland. I knew it had a small population of just around 300,000 people. I saw a lot of nice pictures, sunny pictures of the scenery around. And then the day I landed in Iceland, it was just a barren, flat drive from the airport home or to the mission house, rainy, no houses, no civilization. And for the hour journey from the airport to the mission house, you literally think, where am I? So that was to be honest, that was my first impression of Iceland. But I didn't know much what to expect. I had never met an Icelander. I didn't know what the people were like. On paper, everyone is Christian. Soon you find out that no one really has too much of a religious inclination. And then you have to kind of fish out the ones that you can and will speak to about religion.
Yeah, so just going back to, we mentioned about some attraction. You mentioned the Northern Lights. So you sent this picture, and mashallah, you're very active on social media as well. So these pictures, just tell me, did you get these off Google Images or did you see these?
No, if you look closely, it's a little bit blurred, and that's where you see my camera skills. No, it was in the area where we live. It's quite frequent to see Northern Lights, and to be honest, I've seen them so many times that we don't even bother going out anymore, trying to chase them. And it's just like, they're out again. It's too cold. I'm staying inside. But it was midnight. I was just about to go to bed, but I knew that it was a good day for the Northern Lights. So I just looked out the window before I went to bed, and there was a huge streak of Northern Lights going through our back garden. And then I said, you know what, let me go out quickly and capture some of them. So yeah, Northern Lights are probably one of the main things to see, but it's tricky how to catch them. You can't just predict when and where and how, and even if you will be able to see them. So if you plan a trip coming to Iceland and you want to see the Northern Lights, don't count on it 100%. I mean, there are so many factors that play into being able to see them and stuff. But apart from this, you have glaciers, you have volcanoes, you have ice caves, you have the black sand beach, you have extremely nice waterfalls. I think Europe's most powerful waterfall is in Iceland, in the north.
There was this picture as well, a very beautiful picture. Is this one of many waterfalls that I've seen in Iceland?
This one is in the northwest of Iceland, and we had never seen it before. And my wife and I, we've been speaking about going to the northwest for many, many, many years. And this year, just because we didn't do anything else, and we just said, you know what, let's just go there. And the waterfall is just one thing to see over there, but the drive that we had, it took us 6 hours to reach, and we left quite late. So we were able to drive through the mountains while the sun was setting, and it was just, it was surreal, to be honest. Just subhanallah.
MashaAllah. So Mansoor, to get into the crux of it, you touched upon Christians, and predominantly the main religion in Iceland is Christianity. So just like the UK, now every year it's become more and more multi-faith in the UK, but in Iceland it's largely Christianity or some sort of connection to Christianity. So obviously your initial feelings going there, of all the studies that we did in Jamia, Christianity was part of it, but we also did many other things. So did you have to almost home in onto the teachings of Christianity again and try and revive your learnings of that and to start your preaching there?
Not necessarily, because we came straight after Jamia. It wasn't that I had a huge layoff and I wasn't working in an office for 5-6 years, and I had to revise everything. A lot of things were still fresh in mind, and your best teacher is not just or your studies; it's the discussions and your experiences that you will have. Because let's say, for instance, in Jamia, there are certain you will cover certain topics, certain let's say allegations, accusations, certain, let's just call it certain topics about Christianity and about all the topics within Christianity. So you look at things from a certain aspect and perspective, But when you speak to people, there are so many things that come your way which you're not actually prepared for. And that's when you learn how to deal with these things. So it has been a learning process and still is a learning process. You never meet the same kind of people twice. It's just always something new. People might speak about the same topics, but from a different angle, and you always have to be on your toes, kind of, to be able to know how to reply to that. And of course, even if you don't know how to reply to that, in that instance, there's no harm in saying, no, I'll get back to you.
I think that's such a great example. People say, before I go out and do Tabligh, I'm going to study myself and, get the knowledge myself. But just there's a beautiful example of how actually getting into it, that's when you actually do the thing, and you have to do the research.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a lot of people think like that. And to a certain extent, even me, I would think like that, like, okay, I don't want to go there. I don't want to give this talk in front of these kind of people, or, there's something that you don't feel prepared enough for something. And in terms of Tabligh and in terms of the work that we're doing, you're never prepared enough. You don't know what's going to come your way, but it shouldn't hinder you from going that way, because those occasions, that's what's going to prepare you. It's like life, right? You can't escape life. You have to be part of life to know what life is about and how to manage it. And we do this in all aspects of our lives, jobs, schools. We don't stop going to school because we don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. We don't stop working because we don't know what customer we're going to get tomorrow, or something like that. So we just keep moving forward. We do the best we can, and we trust God. And of course, we have to study also, know what we're talking about. But let those experiences be your guide.
Exactly. And talking about trusting God, how was the first experience of you doing Tabligh in Iceland? You're this person that Zur has trusted and sent all the way to a different country, and now it's your time to, the main job is, spreading the word of Ahmadiyyat in a totally foreign country that you've never really been to. So how was that feeling?
It's the same, like I just explained, with the just the theory and the practical aspect of it. In Germany, we've been prepared for making any sacrifice for the Jamaat, for, let's say, the last 7, 8, however many years, right? But you don't know what that actually means until you come and have to make that sacrifice. And you don't even know what kind of sacrifice that's going to be. It's easy, like, I knew, actually, I didn't know exactly what Iceland's Jamaat looked like. I was told there were 4 or 5 families there, but when I came, there were literally just 4 individuals. And all of them wanted to leave within half a year of, me getting there. But I knew that the Jamaat was small. So in theory, I had prepared myself that I can deal with, being alone or, trying to start something. But coming here, it was certainly a challenge. And that's when you start realizing and appreciating the sacrifices that some of the elders of the Jamaat have made, leaving their families behind for 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, however many years, right? Not even knowing what their children look like. But yeah, I mean, when I first came to Iceland, it was challenging, and coming from Jama, you're the center of the Jamaat and everything, from serving at weddings to cleaning toilets and jalsa duties, and I mean, just set up, wind up, everything. You're always there. And then coming to Iceland, our mission house was basically, let's say, a 90 square meter apartment. Sahib, his wife, they were living here in the same apartment. It was his office, and within that office, and so basically we had one room. Apart from their room, there was another room, which was his office and the praying area. It wasn't bigger than, let's say, 20 square meters. And in that office/praying area was a bed for me. So, when that was my life for the next several months, 6, 7, 8. I don't know. I don't even remember how long it was, until I was completely alone there. But just this change all of a sudden from not having to be, or not being able to go to a mosque, not seeing any other Andy member in your Jamaat, all of the burden, all of a sudden just being dumped on you, so to say, right? It's impossible to describe what that feeling is, because there are so many thoughts that are coming to your mind. You want you want to do so many things, but just the thought of all of these things all together, it just crushes you somehow. And that's where you kind of fall on the ground and you say, hey man, God, I need I need some help here. And exactly this is how it played out. Bookstore was the bookstores at the flea market. They were already happening with previous other side. He had already established a good routine of having bookstores. So after a few months, it was actually after coming back from Germany in 2013. It was nice to see your friends and just the Jamaat again at such a large, at such a large scale, being able to pray behind the Zood, and just in congregation in general, it was just refreshing. And then coming back to Iceland with no one around, it was just this feeling of desperation where I was of course praying for the success of the Jamaat, but there was a point where I was getting to that point of frustration, you can say. And it's not a frustration of like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's just, it's a different kind of frustration where you kind of just pray to God and you say, God, I'm on the verge. Now please do something for me. And it literally just happened like this. I remember, I think it was a Wednesday, and the Tuesday or Wednesday, and the next bookstore was, so after coming from Germany, the next bookstore was going to be on Saturday. And I remember I sat down after Zohar or Asr prayer, and I just said, hey God, do you have, like, inside I was, like I said, I was just so, I wouldn't call it frustration like that, but a sense of frustration and desperation. And I said, do something, please. Like, I need something, and send me someone. And on that bookstore next week or the weekend after, our first to-be convert approached, and we formed, basically, he was a Russian, or is a Russian. He stopped a few times, but he never spoke to me. And I didn't notice him because he just looked from a distance. So he took another round, stopped, picked up a book, and that's when I initiated the conversation. But I didn't know what he was feeling. He just had that stern look on his face, and I was like, should I approach him? Should I say something to him? Is he going to be mean to me? And then next thing you know, we're sitting there speaking for 2 hours as if we've been friends for life. But I mean, yeah, this was just one of my first experiences of Tabligh, and also how God is always there. We just have to reach out to him properly.
I think there are many times in your life where you feel like, maybe God has abandoned you, God has just left you in wilderness. But it's not until, like, you really, like you said, you put your head onto the floor and really start praying for him. And Allah never leaves his servants ever. But sometimes he pushes us to the limit to see how far we can go, to enable us to activate that side of us, to activate our spirituality. And mashallah, since the first convert, mashallah, I think they started coming one by one. And do you think this bookstore was a success for you? Because I know in every place is different, but for you, was that something which was a good hit?
In general, yes. I like the bookstores. Of course, it's I stand there for 6 hours, or let's say even sit there sometimes for 6 hours a day, on Saturday from 11 to 5, Sunday from 11 to 5. It can be tiring in that sense that, at times there are maybe 10 people who will have even the slightest of engagement with you. So maybe they will just say, hi, what are you doing? How are you doing? And that's it. And then within 6 hours, there might be 10 people who do that. So if you have to do that week after week, it can be challenging, it can be tiring, but this is where psychologically you have to be strong, and spiritually as well, because for me it was, for instance, at the end of the day, some people, they close their places, let's say 4:50, but I never closed it at 4:50 because I said, yeah, but there are 10 more minutes, who knows if someone will come. Yeah. And I had this kind of approach that I wanted to do it every week because I didn't know when this next guy was going to come. All of our converts have come somehow through the bookstore, but it has taken always a long time for someone to approach. And then all of a sudden, just, out of nowhere, this relationship was formed. So I like the bookstores very much. but you have to be very persistent and just keep going. Not care about how slow it is. Not care about how many weeks you go without any conversation, or let's say any meaningful conversation which will lead forward to someone embracing Islam or something. You never know, and you just have to keep going with whatever you do.
I just want to quickly share this picture that you sent me with everyone. Could you just explain the individuals here in this picture?
Yes. So you see the guy on the brother on the right, far right. So
yes,
the strong man. He's the Russian brother I was talking about, that I met in 2013. Next to him, that's our most recent, not most recent convert. He converted in 2018. He's originally from Italy. His name is Mirko, and our first brother's name is Andre. So Mirko's story is also interesting. He's an Italian from Sicily. He was becoming a Franciscan friar. So he was going into this field of Christianity. And some events happened over there, and he got completely disheartened from that, and he left religion completely at some point. And while all of this hate stuff was going on about Islam during Trump's reign, something triggered inside him to find out what this is all about. And he came across some of the on Twitter, basically online, about some things about Islam, especially about the Jamaat, Qasim Rashid, and his tweets, and from there he found out that after just searching about Ahmadiyyat, that we have some presence in Iceland too, and then we became friends. And one day he just walked through the flea market, and we stumbled across each other, and the rest is history.
What? Really, yeah. So just on that, you said he was really affiliated with Christianity. For everyone watching, we're here to learn as well. So, are there common arguments or feelings that each of them had about Islam? Some misconceptions they had, or some arguments that they always use that you are ready for? Does it differ from person to person?
It is, of course, different from person to person. Some, let's say, for instance, Andre, his background is also Orthodox. But to some, this concept of the death of Jesus, for instance, it just makes sense so quickly. You don't really have to convince them too much, and this is where I think the differences between, let's say, someone who has somewhat a more open mind and someone who just, regardless of what you will say to them, will just stick to what they want to believe. And not just within Christians, within Muslims and, let's say, atheists and all kinds of people. But no, with these individuals, it was pretty straightforward. Because they weren't so familiar with the claims of the promised Messiah, Islam, and just the teaching of Islam in relation to this, that could have been a slightly more challenging aspect, rather than accepting that Jesus had died like any other human being and prophet. But even that, once everything, I mean, this is just the beauty of Islam. That, our claims are not just empty claims. They can be proven from the Quran, from authentic sources, and it just makes sense. And this is what ultimately was a factor for them too.
MashaAllah. Along with these guys, mashallah, I even see them coming to Jalsa. I'm sure as a Tabligh aspect of it, that for them must have been an icebreaker. They must have really felt the community on a different level when they came. Yeah,
of course. I mean, we're just 10 individuals over here, so they don't really get the sense of what a Jamaat is. But to be honest, I'll tell you the incident, and that's also related to our first convert. It was just such a special experience for him too, for me, myself too, because this was my first Jalsa, not being in the UK. So I traveled with the Tabligh contact and had to show him what the Jamaat was all about. So I think Jalsa in 2013 was in September sometime, or end of August. But anyways, we were staying at Jamia, at the new Jamia complex, and I had no idea what to expect. So there was no special request made of, can I stay here or can I stay there, etc. So they put us in a room, and we were sharing a room with some African American brothers, some from Kazakhstan, some from Russia, and just all over. I think we were 8 or 9 in the same room, and then there was our Russian brother and myself. And we just formed this bond of brotherhood without knowing anything about each other, right? It was just like the atmosphere that we had in the room was special. To this day, it was something that I hold on to and will hold on to for the rest of my life. But anyway, I'll tell you a story about that. In those days, the Candy Crush game was very much on fire. Yeah. Everyone was crushing candy. On the second day of Jalsa, some of the American brothers, and some of you guys have probably seen them. These are these 9 foot tall brothers, and being 5'7", I look like a midget next to them. But on the second day of Jalsa afterwards, we were coming back from Hadiqat al-Mahdi, and we decided to get a lot of chocolate, just some snacks, juices, fizzy drinks, flapjack, and all of this kind of stuff, right? And I had a 2-kilo box of ambala matai waiting for us in our room. So we said, let's just get some brothers together, get in the room, and just chill a little bit. So we just did. We got some brothers from the other rooms, and we put all the stuff in the middle of the room on the floor, and we sat down, and we just had we crushed candy like in real life. And this is how we still remember it. We say, hey, should we go? Every year we meet, we say, hey, should we go and crush some candy? And we make this an annual event. But what's special about this is, so our Russian brother, our Andrei, he was there too, and he was having the time of his life. But he didn't mention it to me at that point, like how amazed and how it impacted him at that time. After Jalsa, he flew to Latvia to meet his family. And a few days later, he calls me and he goes, I'm trying to tell my friends how much fun I had that night, because the Russians, they're prone to drinking, right? Heavy drinking. So he goes, I'm trying to tell my friends how much fun I had without alcohol, and they don't believe me. And he said that, I want to tell, what do I tell them? Like, how can I tell them how much fun this was? That you don't need alcohol to have fun and, to connect with these brothers. And it was just such a special moment in his life, which, eventually, and apart from this also, he had never prayed in a huge congregation. He wasn't an MD at that time, but the first prayer or just the sound of everyone falling onto their knees during the prayer, this is stuck onto the Jalsa ground. He said it was just such a huge impact on me. Just the power behind praying with so many people, it was so special. So yeah, the Jalsa experiences have been special.
I do think that's so incredible, because I think that's the ultimate for anyone, for any Tabligh contact you have. I think everyone around the world would want to bring their contact to the UK and to experience it themselves. And Hazrat Masih said himself that you have to feel it yourself, you have to see yourself to fully understand what Ahmadiyyat is. So I think, mashallah, in your journey so far, you've explained how you established the contacts, how you made you maintained the contact, and how you brought them over to the UK and they experienced it themselves, and that sealed it for them. Alhamdulillah. So I just want to carry on. Alhamdulillah, the stories are incredible. Of course, the time is so short, it's almost impossible to do justice to the journey you've had, mashallah, so far. I wanted to ask you, have you got any tips for everyone? Because, people are reluctant, people want to try different things. You've mentioned the bookstore. Has anything else worked for you, or you can recommend to us? You've lived in the UK as well for many, many years. The mindset here. What do you think everyone else could get involved in?
I think first and foremost, it's important to know who we are, what we believe, and whether we truly believe it or not, right? I think as an Ahmadi Muslim, it's extremely important for us not just to say what we believe, but to be and practice what we believe. And just through this, so many people will see what true Islam and what the truth of Ahmadiyyat is. So first and foremost, it's important for us to practice what we preach and know what we practice, first of all, right? Second, I think it's important for us to, we've taken the pledge of initiation at the hands of our beloved Huzur, but ultimately we pledge allegiance and initiation to the promised Messiah ﷺ through this. And I think condition number 7 or 8, I think, is that we will give precedence to our faith over everything else, right? And I think it's important for us to reread this and understand what this actually means and whether we do it. And whilst doing all of this, it's important also to look back at what our ancestors within Ahmadiyyat have done, and also what our ancestors within Islam have done for the religion. We discussed this earlier, that a lot of people are reluctant to go and preach due to the lack of knowledge, and this shouldn't be a hindrance to anyone. And this is why I mentioned like the sacrifices of our elders and our ancestors. They put down everything they had for what they believed to be the truth. And we in this society have the same opportunity to live up to those standards and be able to do the same, whether we know everything about our religion or not. That's irrelevant. Our faith should dictate and allow us to do and make those sacrifices in this age too. I think sometimes we become too reluctant, thinking about, but what will people say? What will people think? What will people do? These questions shouldn't even enter our minds. They might do, right? But it's like my father used to say, if you don't like something, you put it in here, you take it out the other side. Right. And that's how our approach should be towards Tabligh. To not hesitate, to know and understand the conditions that we have signed, and try to live up to those. Huzur has been mentioning all the sacrifices of all the companions that they did, of the companions of the Prophet, the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And there's a certain reason why he's been doing that, right? Otherwise, to go on week after week after week after week mentioning what they did and their status within Islam, this is why the prophecy was that there will be the latter community will be like the first. Yeah. But we have to practically live up to that. Everyone can do Tabligh. Everyone should do Tabligh. If not in an active way by, let's say, having bookstores or talks or discussions, then just by your own practical example.
That's very, very good and very useful advice there. Just the last question from me, and I know people are sending in their questions as well, so we'll go to that as well. We are in a lockdown. Things must have changed quite a bit in Iceland. They have definitely changed a lot in the UK, and people are still getting familiar with all the new rules coming and with the rule of 6 and etc. We're still questioning what we can and can't do. But as we are more, tech friendly now, how are you using technology or social media to do Tabligh? And can everyone get involved in that of all ages? What do you advise for the people listening?
We in Iceland, we haven't had to use a lot of social media during this lockdown. Our lockdown has certainly been different to the one in UK and around the world. For the most part, I think we had a lockdown of 40 days towards the end of March until end of April or May sometime. And since then, everything has been pretty much back to normal for the most of us anyway. Social media, I think it can be very useful if used wisely and properly. And anyone and everyone can. I mean, just what you're doing right now is I think it's incredible. Connecting the Jamaat and connecting people without physically being able to come. I mean, it is a blessing, and I think everyone can and should, wherever the need is, and sometimes even wherever the need isn't. I mean, it's just shown us another platform of being able to reach people, right? So whether you truly need to do it or not, we can always increase these things. And like recently, they had this Ijtima rally, was it?
Yeah.
And they had this international quiz or something, right? So I mean, it's just shown us so many possibilities of where we can still go, you know, through social media and through all of these online platforms that, you know, we can. I mean, the word has been a global village for years, but now we can make it a global home now.
100%. Jazakallah, Mansoor Sahib. Very, very inspirational stuff. So we have a few questions. Comment first. Someone has said, Assalamu alaikum, Rabbi Sahib. I'm guessing it's to you. Jazakallah for sharing your experiences. Very inspirational. His question is, what was your first reaction when you found out that you were being posted to Iceland?
Okay.
I think I could as well.
If I'm very honest with you, you know, when we were still in Jammu, there were some rumors or speculations that, you know, some Ireland, so IRE, they had requested for some missionaries. And of course, you know, we were making our lists of, yeah, we think these people are going to go back to, because we had students from all kinds of nationalities. So we had Germans, we had someone from Norway, Sweden. So we were already speculating, well, these will probably go back to Germany, or these will probably go back to their home countries. And then there was some rumor about someone going to Ireland. It wasn't necessarily about me, but we knew that Ireland had made a request for a missionary. So somehow this was in the back of my mind. So when I entered Majid Sahib's office, like I said, he just asked two questions. He asked my father's name and my name. And the next thing he said was the country. I mean, literally, it was the shortest interview or shortest conversation I've had with him. And Majid Sahib has a certain way of speaking where you can't confuse Iceland. And the way he said it, I thought for a second to myself, did he say Ireland or Iceland?
Yeah.
And I said, no. I couldn't have misheard this one. So I just said, Jazakallah. And honestly, I had no idea what to expect. I was excited, but I didn't know what to expect. I had never heard about Iceland as such, apart from, you know, what happened in 2010. I didn't know anything about Iceland. So it was definitely excitement, and I guess some nerves as well, especially once I got here and found out what needs to be done.
I think the follow-up question from that would be, how are your family when they found out? Did they think you were playing a joke on them, or was it did they hit them later?
To be honest, I don't know. I mean, every mom probably wants their son to be close to them, and you know, it's like, yeah, but there's need in UK too. No, I think maybe she was thinking like this, but no, they were extremely happy that, you know, it was a mission and a new chapter, and just that I would be able to live up to expectation and fulfill the duty that was being handed to me.
Yeah. Another question that we have is, do you get any sort of satisfaction from doing Tabligh? When you see the result of your hard labor, of your patience, is there a sense of satisfaction when you see people have accepted Ahmadiyyat? When you look at them, do you feel that, you know, you've done your job in terms of what Huzur sent you there for?
It's difficult to say. Of course, there's some satisfaction, of course, when, you know, someone sees the truth and accepts the truth. To the extent that you think that you've done your job, no, not even the slightest. Not even in the slightest. It's impossible to have this kind of. For me, I couldn't have this satisfaction, because I mean, we have 6 converts, and some might say, "Wow, that's so amazing." There's just such a long way to go, right? our goal is to to convey the message of Islam and for people to know and accept it, not in a certain percent, like in a small percentage. We want everyone ultimately to realize the truth of Islam. So there is some satisfaction for sure. Yeah, there is some satisfaction that at least God, and not in myself, just for the fact that God has enabled someone to see the truth of the promised Messiah and the Holy Prophet. So, it's just the satisfaction is more about their status being recognized and the truth of the religion being recognized, rather than saying that, yeah, it was me, I did something. It's that's probably how I feel.
And you mentioned before we talked about trusting Allah. I guess the result of trusting Allah and Him showing you His signs. Do you feel like leaving the UK, leaving the land where the Khalifa is living? Do you feel like your relationship with Allah the Almighty has strengthened? That distance has brought you closer to Allah by Him showing you His signs and help?
Yeah, certainly. I would say that for the most part it can, but then it depends a lot upon yourself how let's say how much you keep that level up, and that's then up to every individual separately. But yeah, certainly not just there's because you depend on God much more. You realize how much you depend on God much more. You literally realize how insignificant you are. Nothing is done and can be done without the will of God. So ultimately you have no choice but to turn to Him, and you realize how you have to turn to Him. So it increases your relationship with God. It should, let's say like this, it should increase your relationship with God. And the same can be said with about Khilafah. Sometimes, and this is just my own personal experience, is that when you live under the shade of Khilafah, or when you live close to someone, the appreciation for that individual, you take it for granted sometimes. And that distance, it gives you a reality check, and it shows you what the status of, let's say, Khilafat is, and how much you should value it, because it's a blessing that some people have. Let's say the people living in the UK, the people living in Islamabad, what a blessing they have. And and it was the same when Khilafat left Pakistan, how much they are longing to see Huzur, right? And it's the same kind of feeling I would have. And if someone would ask me, would you like to live or be back or be posted to the UK, I would probably always say, always, not because I want to be away from Khilafat, but always keep me at a distance, just so I never take it for granted again. Or that this opportunity of taking it for granted would never even come into my mind or my heart. I'll relate a personal incident just about Khilafat and the status. It was and actually, it refers ultimately to the status of the Prophet ﷺ, because Khilafat is just a representation of what the Prophet of Islam brought, and his being. But I think 2015, I want to say, it was my wife and I, we were traveling to UK, and I've made this journey plenty of times. Especially since I was posted to Iceland. I've been to the UK on a number of occasions, let's say 3, 4. But that time it was extremely, there was a strange sense or a strange feeling in my heart. And, the morning that we had to travel, nothing was happening. We got to the airport, nothing was there. It was just a normal day. But as soon as we started descending to Gatwick, there was just all of a sudden a heavy feeling in my heart. And the constant thought that was running through my mind was just, you're about to touch Holy Land. And it was just going back to, that this is the house of Khilafah, right? Do you know where you're going? And it was just such an overwhelming feeling. Like, I wasn't thinking about this at all. Like, and all of a sudden, as soon as I was descending, it was just, it's just blowing my mind, and I had no control over this, and it was a special moment, and that's it was just another one of those reminders of, you know, always know what this is, and always know where you're going, and always know what the status of this is. You know, Khilafat isn't just in London. At that time, it was for the mosque. It's not just when you go to the mosque. As soon as you touch this ground.
I think that's such an incredible illustration. For us living in the UK, you know, like you said, people may take it for granted, but that feeling that you got that you're landing in a holy land, I think many of us feel that living in the UK when we're just about to have our mulakat, you know, that the waiting room, and then when you walk into the room. But it's really amazing to hear someone living outside how he feels it from much further away. And so the closer and closer you get, you know, the more, you know, you feel that awe of the robe, we say, of beloved Huzur.
Right.
And that's how far, you know, Huzur's hand actually stretches. And because he has sent you to Iceland, then of course with it comes, you know, the prayers and the blessings of Khilafat as well. Just a final question that's come in just now, more to do with Tabligh. What is your favorite way of doing Tabligh? Or what is your favorite, you know?
Favorite way is probably one-on-one conversations. I like for someone to get to know me and not just think that I'm some you know, imam, as some people like to think. They are just, you know, focused into one direction. If you speak anything outside of religion, it's a no-no. So I like people to see who I am. I like them to get to know me, just my personality, and then be able to kind of educate them on, you know, depending on what background they come from, of course. But I like to have more personal interactions rather than, you know, let's say giving a talk. Or it is important, you know, everything that's related to Tabligh is important, of course. You know, you can't deny that, let's say, a peace symposium is not important. It has its own, you know, importance and value. Same with bookstores. I like bookstores a lot as well, but, you know, the connections that form through the bookstore, I enjoy those a lot. And those one-on-one conversations, you know, the sitting down, having, I don't know, a piece of cake or coffee, tea, whatever, and getting to know the other person, you know, and that's how that barrier will ultimately break of, you know, let's say the prejudices and just the ignorance, and, you know, getting to know each other. I like those interactions.
100%, 100%. So what's up? We've come to the end. I just want to say on behalf of everyone from the UK, Jazakallah, thank you so much for you know, taking part in today's event. It's probably one of the shortest holidays I've ever had, but definitely one of the most beneficial, and something that I've learned so much from your valuable experience. So again, Jazakallah, thank you. I know it's getting late in Iceland, as it is getting late here.
It's later at yours.
Okay. On both sides we're getting late, so we'll call it a close end there. If I could request you to lead us all into silent prayer.
Let me also just say Jazakallah for everyone who took the time. Maybe some football fans who, instead of watching Liverpool and Arsenal right now, they are joining us and listening to this. So I appreciate also you inviting me for this. I'm honored. So yeah, should we silent prayer, you said? Yeah, so please join me in silent prayer. Amen.
Jazakallah. Just one last thing. You mentioned about Ireland, whether you'll be posted to Iceland Island. Funnily enough, tomorrow, inshallah, we're going to have a talk from a convert, Yusuf Pender Sahib from Ireland, and he will be talking about his experiences of, you know, after doing Tabligh, how it is being a convert. So Mansoor Sahib and family, you guys are definitely more than welcome to join that as well. experience what could have been. and Jazakumullah. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night.
Well, Ibrahim Noonan Sahib, missionary in Charge Island, he's been to Iceland a few times on a few occasions. So
you definitely have to join us then. Jazakallah. Jazakallah. Remember us all in your prayers. And
likewise. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.